Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Ninja World. Against the Sky Comprehension, created Yin Dun Sage Art. Chapter 21. Yi Xing followed Shi Hahong, and left the most prosperous area of Konoha village, and came to a mountainside. Ever since the fire, Kurama Yakumo has lived alone in this deserted place. For a young girl, this was nothing short of torture. The village's senior management didn't realize that their way of dealing with it made Yakumo's shadow grow deeper and deeper, and his ability became more and more uncontrollable. Just halfway through, Yi Xing stopped suddenly. Yu Hong turned her head and said doubtfully, "What's wrong?" Yi Xing said very calmly, "We're being followed." Tracking. Who? Ninjas of Anbu. Yi Xing had expected that someone would follow him. After all, he was entrusted by Third Hokage with such an important task as studying first-generation cells. Except for Azuki Shion, the bodyguard on the bright side, someone will definitely be sent to monitor secretly, in case he leaks the matter of the first-generation cell. In the past half a month, Yi Xing has not been idle, and has been practicing. His already strong mental power, honed by the perfect mental power cultivation method, has now reached an extremely terrifying level, so he can perceive someone following him. Now even the illusion of Yu Hong, a Jonin-level powerhouse, will not have any effect on him. Yi Xing pointed behind him, and instructed Shi Hong. Use illusion to make him lose his sanity. Ah! Seeing Shi Hong with a face of resistance, Yi Xing frowned slightly. Ah, what? Yakumo is used as a weapon of war by the village, don't you care? Shi Hong was awakened by the words, looked in the direction of Yi Xing's finger, and saw a black shadow, flashing past. She clenched her silver teeth tightly, forming a few seals with her hands quickly, and shouted in a low voice. Magic. Tree binding kill. Even though Yu Hong is the best among the 4 mentors Jonin of 12 Shaoqiang, but she was promoted to Jonin before she was 30 years old, and she is already considered a leader in Konoha village. For the sake of caution, she made one of the strongest illusions she has mastered. No matter how vigilant the stalker is, he will definitely be tricked. To Yu Hong's expectation, her illusion did hit. But the other party just paused for a moment, then continued to walk forward. How can this be? Evening Sun's beautiful eyes shrunk, looking unbelievable. Not to mention being able to unlock her illusion alone, she didn't even have a seal. This means that the spiritual power of the opponent is far above her, the caster. What is the origin of this stalker? Failed. Seeing the scene in front of him, Yi Xing's expression remained calm. The stalker gradually approached, and in the field of vision of the two, his figure appeared. I saw him in his 30s, wearing an Anbu uniform, but the expression on his face was extremely stiff. Simply, like a puppet without thought. Zhao Wu Yi Xing. The voice of the ninja sounded without the slightest emotion. The report said that you have a sense beyond that of your peers. Now you actually take the initiative to go deep into no man's land, but you gave me a chance. You are really asking for your own death. Hearing this, Yu Hong couldn't help but change his face. Looking at the opponent's posture, he is not a stalker. Obviously, they are here to take Yi Xing's life. It's just that Yu Hong didn't understand. Yi Xing is a genius in the scientific research department, why would an Anbu ninja come to assassinate him? Third Hokage, why did you make such a decision? It seems that you are a member of the root organization. Yi Xing's expression was very calm, as if he had expected this to happen a long time ago. The Anbu ninja was taken aback when he heard the words, and then said coldly. Don't care who I am, today, you must die here. After all, he folded his hands and 5 fingers together, and made a hollow circle, aiming at Yi Xing. Don't worry, I will turn your death scene into a suicide, turn your heart around technique. When Yu Hong heard Shin turned around, her face turned pale with shock. The other party turned out to be a ninja from the Yamanaka clan. She thought this would be bad. The Yamanaka clan's heart turned around, allowing her own thoughts to forcibly control other people's bodies. How could Yi Xing, a genin who just graduated, resist such ninjutsu? In the blink of an eye, the thoughts of the Anbu ninja had already entered Yi Xing's mind. HMPH, the so-called genius is nothing more than that. At this time, Yi Xing's voice sounded. You are very brave. Anbu ninja's pupils shrank, and his mental body trembled slightly in shock. How can this be? With my own Jonin level, turning around with my heart should completely suppress the opponent's spirit. What's the matter with this boy? At this time, a huge figure appeared in front of him. The difference in stature between the two is like an ant and a mountain. How can it be? The Anbu ninjas were all sluggish. As a Yamanaka family who majors in mind turning, he understands that in the consciousness space, the difference in body shape represents the difference in spiritual power. But how could a 12-year-old boy possess such terrifying mental strength? Even the current Yamanaka patriarch, Hyuga, cannot be compared with the other party. Yixing looked down at the trembling Anbu ninja, and chuckled lightly. Don't worry, I will turn your death scene into a suicide. From the perspective of Kurenai Yuhi, who was in the outside world, the Anbu ninja of the Yamanaka clan fell down inexplicably without any injuries. She leaned over to take a look, only to see that the pupils of the corpse were dilated, and the expression on his face was out of control. As this, frightened to death, Yuhihong murmured to herself in doubt. In so many years, except in the books of the theory class, this was the first time she saw this kind of death. What are you looking at? Time to go. Hearing Yi Xing's voice, she turned around quickly, and saw Yi Xing's calm and indifferent appearance, as if nothing had happened. How did he die? Yi Xing shrugged and showed a kind smile. Who knows, maybe he was tortured to death by his own conscience. Shihahong curled her lips, thinking that only ghosts would believe you. She originally planned to keep asking, but then she thought about it, does the other party still have less secrets? Even Yakumo's problem can be solved, and it's normal to have some self-defense means. In Shi Raihong's heart, she couldn't help being curious about Yi Xing. Side by side, the two continued to walk towards the deep mountain. On the other side, the meeting room of the Hokage building. In the empty room in the past, a group of heavyweights gathered today. Headed by Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, plus Konoha F4 of the Three Elders, and the patriarch of the Ino Shikacho clan. These 7 people are the real Konoha core executives. Gathered here today, just to discuss one thing, or to discuss one person. Shimura Danzo, who was wearing a bandage on his right half of his body, spoke first. I suggest that Yi Xing be engraved with the seal of eradicating tongue troubles to prevent future troubles. For Danzo, all members of the root organization are just tools. Everyone under his command has a spell engraved on their tongues, not to mention leaking information, even the words Danzo and Elder cannot be uttered. Hearing Danzo's proposal, Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded noncommittally, looked at the rest and said in a deep voice. What's your opinion? I object. Yamanaka said something displeased. Yi Xing is a member of the scientific research department, but not the root organization. How can he engrave that kind of curse mark? Head of the High family. Danzo narrowed his eyes and looked at Yamanaka Haichi coldly. You object because the relationship between Yi Xing and your daughter is unusual. Nonsense. Yamanaka slammed the table down heavily and retorted sharply. On such an important matter, how could I be shaken by personal emotions? Danzo sneered twice. His words were full of yin and yang. That's hard to say. According to the old man, your opinion has no reference value. Yamanaka gritted his teeth tightly, feeling very unwilling, but he didn't want to say anything more. After all, Danzo is the elder of Konoha village, and he has such a real power department as the root organization under his command. He can be said to be under one person and above 10,000 people. Seeing that Yamanaka was silent, Danzo showed a smug smile, and when he was about to say something, Nara suddenly spoke. Master Hokage, I also object to this matter. Hearing his words, Sarutobi Hiruzen couldn't help being interested, raised his chin and said. Tell me your reasons. Nara Luju is the military advisor of Konoha village, and the Nara clan is also the leader of Ino Shikacho, so they have a lot of power to speak. Even third Hokage couldn't help but give him face. Nara Lu paused for a long time before slowly opening his mouth to speak. There is one fundamental difference between the situation of Yi Xing and the members of the root organization. What's the difference? Developing ninjutsu is a very subjective thing. If he is unwilling to continue to contribute to the village because of engraving the curse mark, and just hangs around in the scientific research department every day, then we will lose such a scientific research genius. I have to say that Nara has a very good mind. The reasons he gave, even Shimura Danzo couldn't think of an excuse to refute. Admittedly, if Yi Xing starts to show bad behavior because of the engraving of tongue trouble, wouldn't that be putting the cart before the horse? Danzo wanted to say something else, but Sarutobi Hiruzen made a final decision. Okay, according to Lu Ju's intention, maintain the status quo and adjourn the meeting. After everyone had left, Danzo gritted his teeth, with resentment in his eyes. In his opinion, a young and promising talent like Yi Xing, who has already joined Sarutobi Hiruzen, will definitely become an obstacle to his competition for the position of Hokage in the future. Instead of waiting until that time, it is better to get rid of the other party as soon as possible while they are still fledgling. For this reason, Danzo specially dispatched his capable generals, ninjas from the Yamanaka clan. HMPH, you've only been complacent for a while. Thinking of Yi Xing who was about to die, Danzo raised the corners of his mouth, revealing a cruel smile. On the other side, Yi Xing came to a small wooden house on the mountainside following the red sunset. A beautiful girl with an extremely pale complexion and a gloomy look on her delicate face frowned slightly when she saw the two walking in. Teacher Hong, who is he? Yuhi Hong showed a slight smile, and wanted to touch Yakumo's little head, but Yakumo took 2 steps back to avoid it. Her hands froze in midair, and in the end she just sighed helplessly and said softly. His name is Chao Yi Xing, and he is from the Scientific Research Department. He has a way to solve your physical problems. People from the Scientific Research Department. Yakumo frowned, speaking in a bad tone. I don't need your help, please go back. As a time traveler, Yi Xing knew why Yakumo had such a bad attitude. The other party lost control of his ability, and his memory had some deviations, thinking that the fire at the beginning was caused by Sarutobi Hiruzen. Yi Xing dared to be 100% sure that this matter was not caused by third Hokage. According to the character of that old fox, if he really wanted to erase Yakumo's hidden danger, he would never miss it. If you are willing to be stuck here for the rest of your life, there is no harm in refusing my request. Hearing this sentence, Yakumo raised his head to look at Yi Xing's face, and couldn't help being slightly taken aback. How could the people in the Scientific Research Department be so young? And, still so handsome? Appearance is justice, and this principle is universal in the Hokage world. Yakumo's tone couldn't help softening up a bit. No amount of medical ninjas can solve my problem. You are so young, so don't talk big. Whether it's a lie or not, you'll know once you try it. Yi Xing took out a transparent glass tube from his bosom, which contained a little light green liquid. As long as you inject this thing into your body, you can feel that your condition has improved. Kurenai Yuhi and Yakumo looked at the glass tube in his hand with suspicion. This little liquid can solve the problem that countless medical ninjas are helpless. Even if Yi Xing is the most outstanding scientific research genius in the history of Konoha village, this kind of thing sounds too outrageous. Real or fake? Then you'll know if you try it. Yi Xing didn't talk too much nonsense, and directly pricked Yakumo's shoulder with a needle, and injected a little first-generation cells in the glass tube into the opponent's body. Ah, it hurts. Under such a sudden attack, Yakumo couldn't help being coquettish, and then realized that he had made such a shameful voice. She looked at Yi Xing furtively, and was finally relieved to see that Yi Xing looked normal and didn't care at all. Wait a minute, this. Yakumo noticed that the voice that had been constantly buzzing in his mind had suddenly disappeared. Blood color gradually appeared on her pale skin. Seeing the change in Yakumo's appearance, Kuroyuki covered her mouth in shock, saying in disbelief. It actually works. To be honest, she also had doubts about Yi Xing's ability before witnessing it with her own eyes. He only agreed to bring Yi Xing to see Yakumo because of the other party's reputation and the mentality of holding a dead horse as a living horse doctor. Unexpectedly, it actually worked. As the person involved, Yi Xing was not surprised at all. Yakumo's frailty and sickness, and his ability to easily lose control are all caused by his own yin chakra being too strong. Just like transplanting first-generation cells, it will become a tree. Excessive proportion of yin chakra can also cause many problems. For example, the average Uchiha family is mentally ill. The stronger the ninja, the more extreme the psychology. This is the reason. First-generation cells and Yakumo, both are good medicines to solve the other's illness. Yakumo raised his small head and asked eagerly, is there any more? I still want it. Shiraihong also cast her hopeful eyes on Yi Xing, pleading. Yes, is there any more? Yi Xing shrugged and smiled lightly. Even if you two want it together, I won't have any left. Hearing this sentence, Yakumo, who was pure-hearted, didn't think much about it, but Kurenai Yuhi, who was next to him, blushed with embarrassment. This boy's speech is too strange. Next, Yi Xing collected some Yakumo's blood samples under the pretext of taking them back for research, and returned to the village. Walking in front of the Anbu building, Yuhi Hong stopped and said in a low voice. Thank you for today's matter. Yi Xing waved his hand and said calmly. It's too early to say thank you. After that, he entered the laboratory in the Anbu building. As soon as she entered the door, she saw Azuki Shion sitting on a chair bored with her chin on her hand. Where did you go today? And it's been so long since you came back. You're not my girlfriend, why ask so many questions? Mao Yu Shion was a little angry when she heard the words. She stood up and said with her hands on her hips. You figure it out, Lord Hokage asked me to protect, Before she could finish her sentence, she suddenly felt a warmth from her lips, and her beautiful eyes opened slightly wide. Yi Xing's figure was extremely tall and straight. In terms of height, she was even much taller than Shi Yan. The way the two kissed, if outsiders saw it, they would think it was a couple in love. After a few breaths, Azuki Shion came to her senses, took 2 steps back, covered her lips, and tears welled up in her eyes. You. In the end, Shion was still unable to utter the words of accusation, and rushed out of the laboratory as if fleeing. Looking at the back of the other party leaving, Yi Xing raised his hand and wiped his mouth. When implanting first-generation cells, no one should be allowed to watch, and Shion was no exception. Instead of wasting his tongue and making up a suitable excuse, he still wants to waste his tongue in this way. At least it tastes good. Yi Xing stood up and walked to the door, swiped his left hand a few times in the air, put his hands together, and shouted in a low voice. 4 elephant seals. As the voice fell, several obscure words in a swirling pattern appeared on the door of the laboratory. That'll be fine. With Yi Xing's heaven-defying level of comprehension, it only took a day or two to master all the sealing techniques of the Whirlpool clan. You know, Konoha village had been friends with it for generations before the country of URL was destroyed. Almost all important places in the village are protected by sealing techniques. Mastering the sealing technique of the Vortex clan not only improves one's own strength, but more importantly, it is equivalent to having a key to unimpeded access in Konoha village. After setting the 4-element seal, Yi Xing turned around and walked to the table, took out a bottle of Hashirama cell samples, and fused it with Kurama Yakumo's blood. As he expected, the first-generation cells that were about to move became much calmer the moment they came into contact with Yakumo's blood. Sure enough, Yi Xing muttered to himself, without the slightest hesitation, directly injected the bottle of first-generation cells into his left arm with a needle. For the past half-month, he has been cultivating his mental strength assiduously, just for this day. With such a small amount, even if there is an accident, with his own ability, he can completely suppress it. After a while, Yi Xing let out a long sigh of relief. After injecting first-generation cells, his body has no tendency to activate at all. This shows that his thinking is correct. Kurama Yakumo's blood can indeed suppress the huge power of Yang escape in first-generation cells. 2 months later, at the gate of the ninja school. What a hassle. Looking at Yi Xing with an impatient expression, Mao Yuexi sighed helplessly. Okay, you've been complaining since you came out, isn't it just to give a lecture to the students, is it that uncomfortable? During this period, according to Sarutobi Hiruzen, Yi Xing has not made any progress in the development of first-generation cells. Although he was a little disappointed, it was indeed within reason. After all, even a character like Orochimaru, who has studied first-generation cells for more than 10 years, has not been able to crack its mystery. It would be too scary if Yi Xing could achieve results in less than 3 months. Sarutobi Hiruzen knew that it was useless even if he urged him, so he made a decision. Let Yi Xing come to the ninja school and give a lecture to these students. A genius who can be specially recruited into the scientific research department at the age of 12 and has the will of fire, teaching by precept and example will definitely have a very good brainwashing effect. Even if I tell them, they won't understand. Azuki Shion thought this was true. Even Mr. Hokage can't understand Yi Xing's profound and complicated thoughts, let alone those students who haven't graduated yet. Then why don't you just tell them something they can understand? You still don't understand. Yi Xing glanced at Azuki Shion. If you were asked to explain to a 3-year-old why 1 + 1 = 2, you would feel very painful, right? Maoyu Shion was speechless, thinking that it was all over for you kid. Yi Xing led her to the ninja school, and said as if unintentionally on the way. By the way, all the cell samples used in the experiment have been used up. If you have time, go tell Mr. Hokage and ask him to send some more. Okay, I get it now. Azuki Shion didn't care about it. It is quite normal that there will be wear and tear during the experiment. She looked at Yi Xing who was walking in front, with a complicated look in her beautiful eyes. Neither of them mentioned what happened last time. The most difficult thing for Azuki Shion to accept was not the fact that she kissed a boy who was 10 years younger than herself. But in her heart, she didn't feel resistance, and even felt a little inexplicable joy. The two came all the way to the door of a classroom. A man with a dark complexion and a forehead protector had been waiting for a long time. Yi Xing, you've come. Teacher Uruka. Hearing Yi Xing address himself, Uruka waved his hands and smiled. Don't be so polite, you are an important member of the scientific research department now, and I have never taught you, just call me by my name. Yi Xing nodded, and followed Uruka into the classroom. When the students sitting below saw him coming in, they cheered up and whispered to each other. Senior Yi Xing is still so handsome. It's better to say that his body has become better. Is it because he has been exercising after joining the scientific research department? He came to give us a lecture, which is really exciting. In just a few months, the name Chalgiri Yi Xing has become a symbol of genius among the younger generation in Konoha village. Even Neji from Hyuga branch house, and Sasuke, Uchiha's orphan, pale in comparison. After all, it was the first time in Konoha's history that he was specially recruited into Anbu as a genin. Yi Xing stood behind the podium and looked at the students below. Yi Xing. Ino waved hello to him with a sweet smile on his face. Seeing this scene, a girl with short pink hair and green eyes couldn't help biting her silver teeth, clenched her fists and said bitterly. Ino pig, you really like to steal the limelight. Ino also fought back not to be outdone. Wide forehead, I think you are jealous. Amidst the noise of the students, an indifferent voice suddenly sounded. It's really funny for a weak person to teach a strong person. The person who said this was a handsome young man with black hair and black eyes. With a cold expression on his face, he looked directly into Yi Xing's eyes, showing undisguised disdain. Ah, why is Sasuke talking like that? He's always been like this. Although Yi Xing's strength is a bit weak, he is a genius specially recruited into Anbu, so it's okay to give lectures. Most people in the classroom felt that Sasuke's words were too much, and only a small number of nympho girls expressed their support for him. After all, although Yi Xing is more handsome than Sasuke, there are still M-like fans who like icebergs. Sasuke, you are so disrespectful. Ino slapped the table and stood up, sternly yelling. Haruno Sakura was also displeased when someone said Yi Xing, but she didn't have the courage to speak out against Sasuke like Ino. HMPH, did I say something wrong? Sasuke folded his arms around his chest, with a haughty and cold look on his face. Ninja, strength is paramount. Can a weak guy like this come to teach me? His hostility towards Yi Xing was not without reason. During this period of time, people in the village have been discussing how outstanding Yi Xing's talent is. Many people even say that even Uchiha Itachi is slightly inferior compared to him. Such remarks touched Sasuke's bottom line, and made him disgusted and hostile to the highly praised Yi Xing. The weak, to teach the strong. It's a joke in the world. Sasuke didn't feel that Yi Xing's so-called scientific talent was anything to brag about. Only the weak can rely on these things. And you? Sasuke looked at the furious Ino and sneered. During Uchiha's heyday, Yamanaka clan didn't have a say. Seeing him so defiant, Ino became even more angry. Since you said that the ninja's strength is paramount, well, let's go to the practice field and decide the outcome. HMPH, that's exactly what I mean. Seeing that the situation was out of control, Uruka hurriedly dissuaded him. Hey, we're all classmates, talk about things, don't fight. He was just in the middle of speaking, but was interrupted softly by Yi Xing. Uruka-sensei, wouldn't it be nice to let Ino and Sasuke compete? Seeing Uruka's tangled face, Yi Xing smiled. In this world, whoever is stronger is the one who speaks the truth. They should graduate in half a year. Learning this truth here is better than going outside and paying the price of your life. What do you think? Oh, that's fine. Uruka also understands that ninja is a high-risk profession. If it was during the war, it is impossible for this group of students to wait until they are 12 years old before graduating. Like Kakashi, Might Guy and the others, they were basically 6 or 7 years old, and they were already going to fight the enemy to the death on the battlefield. The flowers in the greenhouse will never grow. Then let's gather on the playground. Seeing that there was excitement to watch, the students stood up and left the classroom one after another, and came to the practice field. Uruka looked at Ino and Sasuke in the field, and sighed helplessly. Keep the seal of opposition. I don't think it's necessary. Yi Xing interrupted Uruka, looked at Ino and said. The rehearsal at the ninja school is a bit too boring. You can neither perform ninjutsu nor use ninjutsu. I think since it is to determine the outcome, or follow the real combat, what do you two think? Ino nodded. I have no objection. Sasuke snorted coldly, looking arrogant and indifferent. If you get hurt, don't blame me for being merciless. Let's begin then. Seeing that Yi Xing had decided everything without authorization, Uruka hesitated to speak, and finally could only shake his head helplessly. Regardless of his young age, he is a serious member of the scientific research department, and his position is equivalent to that of a supervisor. Uruka is an ordinary ninja school teacher. Even if he is personally appointed by third Hokage, in front of Yi Xing, he can only be regarded as a subordinate. Among the cheers of many students, one person's voice was particularly loud. Come on, give this man with facial paralysis a hard lesson. Who else but Naruto can give Sasuke the nickname of facial paralysis? His spirits were so high that he even jumped for joy. And a girl with white pupils and a very cute face looked nervously at the two people in the field and whispered to herself. Ino-san, Sasuke-san, it's better for neither of you to get hurt. Akamichi Choji asked Shikamaru vaguely while eating a bag of potato chips. Who do you think will win? Shikamaru curled his lips and rolled his eyes. Need to say, of course it's Sasuke. How strong is Ino, don't we know? That's right, Ino's talent is still outstanding, but compared with the genius Sasuke of the Uchiha clan, it is still too far behind. Although everyone is cheering for her, few people think that she can really beat Sasuke. Yi Xing, I will win. Ino was thinking like this, looking at Sasuke opposite, although he was a little nervous, but still showed a firm expression. Relying on the cultivation method taught by Yi Xing, as well as her hard work in the past few months. Even the genius Sasuke of the Uchiha clan, she has the confidence to win. After making up his mind, Ino let out a coquettish cry, took out a ninja tool like a flower from his arms, and threw it at Sasuke who was opposite him. The Yamanaka family, in addition to the heart-turning series of secret arts, is also good at a throwing technique called the bird pocket, which uses flower ninja tools. Although Ino is not as good as Tiantian in this respect, his grades in the class are also among the best. HMPH, that's really funny. Sasuke shook his head disdainfully, threw a shuriken casually, and blocked the flower in the air. He looked at Ino coldly and said arrogantly, don't forget, you Yamanaka clan are far from Uchiha in terms of ninja throwing flowers. It's like a child's playhouse. Although Sasuke's words are very arrogant, they are true. The most famous Uchiha family is good at shuriken and fire style. Compared with the bird pockets of the Yamanaka family, they are indeed a bit unsightly. After being insulted like this, Ino was not angry, but instead smiled and said in a low voice. Sure enough, it was tricked. Sasuke was taken aback when he heard the words, and then realized that at some point, Ino had put his hands and 5 fingers together, forming a circle and pointing at him. Heart-turning technique. When Ino called out the name of the move, the most surprised was not Sasuke in the field, but Shikamaru and Choji who were watching the battle. The two of them opened their mouths slightly, and they both had expressions of disbelief. Ino, when will she be able to turn around instantly? The hearts of the Yamanaka family turned to technique. As long as they were hit, it would be difficult to break free. Such a powerful control-type ninjutsu naturally also has flaws. That is, before using it, it must be saved for a period of time. Even Yamanaka Hyuga, who is now the strongest in the Yamanaka clan, can't gather his spiritual power and use his heart to turn around in such a short period of time. Since when did Ino become so strong? At the same time, Sasuke only felt a powerful spiritual force invade his mind. In an instant, he lost control of his body. Even if he wanted to move his fingers, he couldn't do it. Ino won. No way, she really defeated that Uchiha Sasuke. And it only took a short 10 seconds, this strength is too terrifying. No one expected that Ino, who usually looks like a big lady, has such unfathomable real strength. Could it be that the Yamanaka family, who have only been responsible for intelligence collection and communication for many years, finally appeared a powerful genius? Although Sasuke can't control his body, he can hear the discussions of people around him. This caused his fragile pride to be trampled to the ground once again. This guy. When Sasuke lost control of his emotions, he could no longer care so much. He clenched his teeth, and the scarlet danguyu appeared in his eyes. Seeing this, Iruka couldn't help exclaiming, "That's it, Sharingan." Even in the heyday of the Uchiha clan, those who can open the Sharingan are the best of the clan. What's more, Sasuke is not yet 12 years old. To be able to open Sharingan so early, such a talent is one of the few in the entire history of the Uchiha clan. With the blessing of one Tomo Sharingan, Sasuke tried his best to break free from the shackles of turning around. Ino's spirit was shaken back into his body, and he couldn't help covering his chest and took 2 steps back, clenching his silver teeth and whispering, "It's the Sharingan." The most helpless of the Yamanaka clan is the Uchiha clan, who are born with strong spiritual power. Not to mention, after opening the Sharingan, their mental strength will skyrocket. Just when Iruka was about to call to stop, Sasuke actually clasped his hands together and began to form seals. From the imprint of his hand, he recognized the ninjutsu that the opponent was performing, and his pupils shrank in shock. Escape technique. Ninjutsu that uses the chakra attribute is collectively referred to as dojutsu. The simplest escape technique, the learning difficulty is at least C level, and it is a powerful ninjutsu that can only be mastered at the Chunin level. "Sasuke, stop!" Shouting, Iruka rushed towards the field. Unfortunately, his movements were still not fast enough. Sasuke has completely lost his mind and didn't hear Iruka's cry at all. The seal in his hand has reached the last one. Fire style. Just when everyone on the sidelines couldn't bear to see the next scene, a voice suddenly rang in Sasuke's ear. That's it. Sasuke's hands that were about to close were directly grasped. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break free. He turned his head, and it was Ying's annoyingly handsome face that caught his eyes. "Don't get in my way." Immediately, Sasuke wanted to cast Sharingan's illusion. But in the next second, he suddenly felt a palpitation. In Ying's black pupils, there seemed to be something more terrifying than danguyu. At this time, Sasuke realized one thing. Even though he had just maintained the state of one Tomo Sharingan, he still didn't see how Ying got close to him. How could? Sasuke looked at Ying with a calm face, feeling a familiar sense of powerlessness in his heart. Just like seeing my brother with blood on his hands 4 years ago. No, maybe even more so. Through Sharingan, Sasuke is keenly aware that Ying is an extremely dangerous person. Could it be that the strength of the other party is really no less than that of his brother? At this time Ino finally came to his senses, stood up and walked to Ying, lowered his head and said in shame, "Sorry to disappoint you." "Fine." Ying reached out and stroked the top of Ino's head. "I am very satisfied that you can do this step." In the eyes of the outside world, although Sasuke's talent is very high, compared with his brother Uchiha Itachi, it is still quite different. As a time traveler, Ying knew that the iceberg-like boy was the son of the Sage of Six Paths and the reincarnation of Indra. With only a few months of hard work, Ino can compete with Sasuke, which has proved how valuable the perfect spiritual power practice method is. Seeing that neither of them were injured, Iruka was finally relieved, sweat dripping from his forehead. If there was an accident today, he, the class teacher, must be to blame. Seeing Sasuke with a downcast face, Iruka stepped forward and scolded very severely at first. Sasuke-san, you're too ignorant of your actions. Facing Iruka's reprimand, Sasuke bowed his head like a wooden man without saying a word. Seeing this, Iruka shook his head helplessly, patted the other person on the shoulder, and comforted him softly. Don't feel frustrated. After all, Yixing is 1 year older than you, and he is a genius who was specially recruited into Anbu by Hokage. You will be able to catch up with him soon. In the past, Sasuke would definitely retort coldly when he heard such words. But now, he is deeply aware that there is indeed an insurmountable gap between his own strength and Yixing's. Even his biggest hole card, Sharingan, couldn't keep up with the opponent's speed. If you can hold his mudra hand, you can use kunai to pierce his neck. While feeling frustrated, Sasuke also had a glimmer of hope in his heart. Could it be that the so-called scientific research really has such a powerful effect, allowing Yixing, who was originally mediocre, to possess such terrifying strength in such a short period of time? Then, if you ask the other party for help yourself, is it really possible to realize the plan of revenge against that guy? After this brief farce, everyone returned to the classroom. The students looked at Yixing, who was explaining theoretical knowledge, and Ino, who had just lost, with admiration in their eyes. Competing against Sasuke is already a remarkable achievement. Sasuke barely broke free from the shackles of turning around by relying on the power of Sharingan. If it was not a duel, but a life-and-death battle, just a few seconds of distraction would be enough to determine the winner. Soon, it's time to leave school. Ino wanted to ask Yixing to have dinner together, but at the door of the classroom, he saw his father. Why do you suddenly have time today and come to pick me up from school? Yamanaka Hyuga, who usually has a smile on his face, looks very serious today. Follow me, Master Hokage is looking for you. Master Hokage. Although Ino was puzzled, he followed his father all the way to the meeting room of the Hokage building. As soon as she entered the door, she was made nervous by the heavy atmosphere inside. Ino saw that not only Sarutobi Hiruzen, but also an old man with a bandage on the right side of his body, was also sitting inside. She remembered that the other party seemed to be the elder Danzo in the village, who seldom appeared in front of everyone. After Ino and Hyuga sat down, Shimura Danzo spoke slowly. Hyuga, I didn't realize that your daughter has such a talent. Yamanaka forced a smile, thinking that let alone you, even I, a father, didn't expect her to be so strong. Danzo knocked on the table, cast gloomy eyes on Ino, and said in a deep voice full of oppression. What are you hiding from the village? Ino was taken aback when he heard the words, and shook his head again and again. I have nothing. Still playing stupid. Danzo slapped the table hard. Then how do you explain the sudden increase in your strength? Seeing that the elder was angry, Yamanaka quickly lowered his voice and said to his daughter. Ino, let's be honest, what's going on? Facing the double oppression of his father and elders, Ino felt very helpless. She had a troubled look on her face, clenched her silver teeth, and finally firmly denied it. I'm not hiding anything. The cultivation method of perfect spiritual power was taught to her by Yixing, and she was specially instructed not to disclose it to others. Even in the face of the elders' questioning, Ino was unwilling to tell the truth. That's it. Hearing her categorical denial, Danzo said coldly. Head of the High family, I remember that in your Yamanaka family, there is a secret technique that can search other people's memories. Just use it on your daughter. Yamanaka was shocked when he heard the words. No, that kind of secret technique will cause extremely serious damage to the brain. Quote. Who cares? Danzo sneered twice. If you refuse, it will be tantamount to betraying the village. Yamanaka didn't know what to do, so he could only look for help to Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was sitting at the top. It's just that this highly respected third Hokage, at this moment, is like a shrinking tortoise, not even saying a word. Because the first-generation cell experiments some time ago did not involve root tissue, Sarutobi Hiruzen felt that he owed Danzo a great favor. If they go against the other party in this matter again, it is hard to say whether the root organization will go on strike directly. Therefore, even if the person involved is Yamanaka from the Hokage line, Sarutobi Hiruzen can't say much. Seeing his eyes, Yamanaka already understood everything. At this moment, the door of the conference room was suddenly pushed open. Before Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen had time to get angry, they heard Yi Xing's voice coming in. Hokage and the elders, going to embarrass a ninja school student, is this the so-called will of fire? Seeing Yi Xing walk in, Danzo showed a tricky smirk. He called Ino and Hiashi over to inquire, but in fact it was because the ulterior motives were not drinking. The real target is Yi Xing, the hottest and unparalleled genius of the scientific research department. The Yamanaka family ninja sent by Danzo last time disappeared inexplicably, and the body was not found until nearly a month later. After the dissection of the root tissue members, it was found that the person did not appear to have suffered any injuries on the surface, but the inside of the brain had become a mass of paste. This method of death is obviously the result of illusion. Danzo is even more convinced that there must be some unknown secrets about Yi Xing. He couldn't tell Sarutobi Hiruzen, because he couldn't explain why he sent his subordinates to follow Yi Xing. But Danzo knew that Hiashi, the patriarch of the Yamanaka clan, and his daughter Ino had a very close relationship with Yi Xing. As long as you can find a reason for the trouble from these two people. Thinking of this, Danzo looked at Yi Xing's face coldly and said in a deep voice. The village did this to ensure the loyalty of the Yamanaka clan. Ino's strength has suddenly increased so much. Who knows if it is another ninja village who used some secret method to buy her off and let her be an undercover agent. When Yamanaka heard such slander, no matter how good-tempered he was, he couldn't help but say angrily. Elder Danzo, are you suspecting that we, the Yamanaka clan, have betrayed the village? Since there is nothing to hide, let's tell the truth. Danzo folded his arms around his chest, looking confident. Even if Yi Xing is not involved in this plan, it can still reap benefits. When Konoha village was established, Ino Shikacho joined under the leadership of the Sarutobi clan. The relationship between the two parties can be described as very strong. Danzo wants to become the fifth Hokage. In addition to letting Sarutobi Hiruzen step down, he must also find a way to solve the obstacle of Ino Shikacho. This time he attacked the Yamanaka clan, but Sarutobi Hiruzen could only watch from the sidelines. Even if Yamanaka Hiruzen didn't say anything on the surface, he would definitely be disappointed in his heart. In this way, when he competes for the fifth Hokage position later, he doesn't have to worry about his opponent Asuma. Don't ask. Yi Xing gave Ino a reassuring look, went straight to the table and sat down, and said calmly. The reason why her strength has risen so quickly is because I taught her a spiritual power cultivation method. Spiritual power cultivation method. The other three were shocked when they heard this. Especially Hiashi, who is the head of the Yamanaka family, was directly shocked. As his daughter and the future heir of the Yamanaka family, Ino's cultivation resources in all aspects are the best. Could it be that the spiritual cultivation method taught by Yi Xing is hundreds of times stronger than that of the Yamanaka clan? Otherwise, how could Ino's strength have improved so significantly in just a few months? It turns out that's the case. Danzo looked at Yi Xing with a sneer, thinking that you brought this to your door yourself. Immediately afterwards, his expression darkened suddenly, and he reprimanded angrily. If there is such a thing, why don't you report it to the village? Could it be that you have a different intention? If it were a normal person of the same age, facing such an accusation from an elder, he would definitely feel very flustered and begged for mercy to explain. Yi Xing's expression was still so calm, and he even frowned impatiently. What are you barking at? As soon as this sentence came out, Danzo couldn't help it. He even wondered if he heard it wrong. What did you say? I said, what are you barking at? Presumptuous. Danzo had never been humiliated like this since he became an elder and started the root organization, and he immediately flew into a rage. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who sat at the top, also frowned slightly. Yi Xing, you are too rude. Yeah, Yi Xing smiled noncommittally, and asked back. Then why don't I ask, Rasengan of 4th Hokage, Reikiri of Kakashi, like these self-created ninjutsu, have they been handed over to the village? This. For a moment, Danzo didn't know how to answer. In this regard, there has always been a clear distinction between the village and individual ninjas. The ninjutsu created by oneself does not need to be handed in. Otherwise, why is the master-student relationship in the ninja world so important? It is because of worshipping a powerful teacher, you can learn many powerful and unique ninjutsu from the other party. After murmuring for a long time, Danzo came up with an extremely reluctant reason. The village cultivated you, you should give back to the village. Yixing glanced at him with a half-smile, and chuckled lightly. Then you live decades longer than me, and eat decades more than Konoha village. Shouldn't your summoning beast contract be handed over to the scientific research department? Danzo was so angry that his body was shaking. He pointed at Yixing's face and said sharply. You are a traitor to the village. Treason the village. Yixing's smile suddenly subsided, and his expression became very indifferent. Are you threatening me? In the next second, he actually took out a detonating talisman from his pocket and patted it on the table. Elder Danzo, seeing that you don't know, let me mention it to you. Yixing glanced at Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen, and said slowly. I'm tandem paper bombs, modified from second Hokage. Looking at the detonating symbol on the table, the expressions of Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen changed at the same time. The latter frowned and said in a deep voice. Are you threatening us? Threats? Of course not. Yixing smiled nonchalantly, and said softly. If there were tandem paper bombs that could be controlled remotely by the caster, that would be terrifying. Remote control. Danzo scoffed at the words, with a look of obvious disbelief on his face. How could there be such a technique? Are you scaring people here? Yixing shrugged and smiled lightly. Then take a gamble. Wait. Sarutobi Hiruzen's face was heavy, his chest was heaving and rising. Danzo doesn't have much contact with Yixing himself, and doesn't know much about his talent. But Sarutobi Hiruzen is very clear about how terrifying this young man's scientific research talent is. No one ever imagined that tandem paper bombs could be combined with the chakra lines that manipulate puppets to create an improved version of tandem paper bombs. Remote control sounds like a fantasy. What if it is true? Sarutobi Hiruzen raised his hand to stop Danzo's next words, looked at Yixing and said in a deep voice. The village and I treat you kindly. Why do you do this? Yixing thought sure enough, here comes the classic. What Sarutobi Hiruzen is best at is moral kidnapping. Whether it was Konoha's White Fang or Uchiha Shisui in the past, they all fell into his tricks. But, as long as I have no morals, you can't kidnap me. Master Hokage, as a member of the scientific research department, I created an improved version of tandem paper bombs, and I have done my duty. Yixing glanced at the furious Danzo, and said calmly. This spiritual power cultivation method was created by me personally, without using the resources of the scientific research department, so I have no obligation to hand it over to the village. Danzo gritted his teeth when he heard the words, and said bitterly. You brat, old man. Danzo, shut up. Sarutobi Hiruzen slammed the table down hard to stop Danzo's words. He looked at Yixing and said calmly. What happened today? Just pretend it never happened. Hiruzen, don't forget Danzo, I am Hokage. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at the three people sitting opposite him, with a helpless look on his old face. He waved his hands casually. Okay, you can leave now. As soon as Yamanaka stood up, his expression looked a bit complicated, and he nodded slightly. Thank you Hokage-sama. Afterwards, he took Ino and Yixing and went straight back to his home. After entering the door, Yamanaka heaved a sigh of relief and smiled wryly. Do you two know how much trouble you almost caused? I have to say that Yamanaka Hyuga is indeed a good father. Even though Hokage and the elder made things difficult for him, he didn't blame his daughter for it. I'm sorry, father, Ino licked his lips nervously, not knowing how to reply. Even if it wasn't Yixing who taught her the spiritual power cultivation method, but someone else, she would make the same choice. It's not Ino's character to reveal other people's secrets. Oh, there's really nothing I can do about you. Yamanaka sighed helplessly, turned to look at Yixing, showed a kind smile, and patted him on the shoulder. However, the Yamanaka clan will never forget your kindness. Yamanaka is not an ungrateful person who turns black and white. Danzo and Third Hokage's attack has nothing to do with Yixing's own behavior. On the contrary, the spiritual power cultivation method created by the other party was only passed on to his own daughter. What kind of kindness is this? Looking at this kid now, Hyuga is getting more and more pleasing to the eye, and he has become the future son-in-law in his heart. Just then, there was a knock on the door. As soon as Yamanaka opened the door and saw Nara standing at the door, he was slightly taken aback for a moment and then hurriedly said. Luju, do you know? Just now, I've heard it all. Lu Ju waved his hand, interrupted Yi, went straight into the house, and looked at Yi Xing. It's been a long time since I played chess, how about a game? Good. Seeing the two sitting opposite each other after setting up the chessboard, Yi scratched his head a little at a loss. Father, forget it, let's go. Yi knew that Lu Ju had something to say to Yi Xing. Even though the place was in his living room, he still took Ino away with a sense of humor. After setting up the chessboard, Nara took the first step. This time, you not only offended Elder Danzo, but also made Lord Hokage have opinions in his heart. Yi Xing nodded slightly and said nonchalantly, "Of course I understand. Since you understand it, why do you still do it? Patriarch Lu Ju, I have a question and I want to ask you. What is the problem?" Yi Xing looked directly into Lu Ju's eyes with a calm tone. Hokage's power, or the secret technique that can make a family stronger, which is more important? Of course it is. In the middle of speaking, Nara Shikaju froze in midair with the hand holding the chess piece. Seeing his reaction, Yi Xing continued. Power is only temporary, but secret art is the foundation of a family's foothold. It is unnecessary to say which is more important. Nara Lu Ju raised his head and paused every word. You mean, for Asino Shikacho, you are more reliable than third Hokage. Meanwhile, in Hokage's office, Sarutobi Hiruzen stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, took a deep breath on his pipe, and a meaningful smile appeared on his face. In his opinion, this time the matter is not bad, it can even be said that it is a good thing. Don't forget, Sarutobi Hiruzen, as third Hokage, is fundamentally different from Danzo's position. Although Yi Xing did not turn in the spiritual power training method, he did pass it on to Ino. Who is Ino? It was the only daughter of Yi, the head of the Yamanaka clan. This shows that Ino has an unusual status in Yi Xing's heart. The Ino Shikacho clans are also loyal to the Hokage clan. Yi Xing has such a relationship with the Yamanaka clan, doesn't it mean that he is loyal to him, the third Hokage? As long as Hiruzen's plan is implemented smoothly, let Asuma be the leader of Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji. At that time, Yi Xing has such a relationship with Ino, and he will definitely be able to provide vital help for Asuma's 5th Hokage campaign. There is only one point that Sarutobi Hiruzen can't figure out. Logically speaking, with Yi Xing's calmness and rationality, he shouldn't have taken such a strong counterattack during the meeting. Where did his confidence come from? On the other side, inside the residence of the Yamanaka family. Yi Xing didn't answer Lu Ju's question, but just pushed the pawn one step forward, and said softly. You lost, Patriarch Lu Ju. Nara Lu Ju looked down at the chessboard and realized that revolving heaven was powerless on his side, so he couldn't help but smiled wryly. Sure enough, neither I nor Shikamaru can beat you. I can also tell you about the spiritual cultivation method I taught Ino. Yi Xing took out a scroll from his pocket and gently placed it on the table. Nara looked at the scroll, his eyes became a little complicated, and he muttered. I cannot lead the tribe to betray the village. You're wrong about that. Yi Xing smiled and said every word. Shimura Danzo, even Sarutobi Hiruzen, they are just individuals, not representative of Konoha as a whole. Nara Shirjo's face showed a tangled look. To be honest, he has already had opinions on some of third Hokage's practices. It's just that Ino Shikacho, as a vassal of the Sarutobi clan, really doesn't have the courage to resist. Although these three races have profound backgrounds, they have a fatal flaw. That is, there is no top powerhouse in the clan. Nara Shirju and Yamanaka Yi, in terms of combat power alone, are much stronger than ordinary Jonin. Dingza, the patriarch of the Akamiki family, has the elite Jonin level, but that's all. Over the years, in order to maintain their status in the village, the three patriarchs have made many sacrifices. Among them, sending young clansmen into the root organization as Danzo's pawns. If it wasn't really impossible, who would want to be a dog? It's just that such a young man really possesses the powerful talent that can change the fate of the Ino Shikacho clan. Let me think about it for 2 days. Can. Yi Xing nodded, and then directly left the Yamanaka clan's territory. It was already late at night, and there were no pedestrians on the street, only members of the security forces patrolling. He walked into an empty alley, took out a pure black mask from his arms, and slowly covered his face. Danzo, it's better to suffer a bit. After being implanted with first-generation cells and possessing a huge amount of chakra, Ying's current strength can be described as advancing by leaps and bounds. In addition, during this period of time, through the authority of the Scientific Research Department, he has mastered various powerful ninjutsu. It can be said that the current Ying is undoubtedly of Kage-level strength. Even third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen would not be his opponent. Flying Thunder God. With a flash, Ying disappeared from the spot and appeared in another place in the village. He looked down at the sewer entrance on the ground, knelt down and touched it with his hand, and several obscure words emerged on it. Sure enough, this is the entrance to the Root Organization's underground stronghold. In such a secret place, of course Danzo set up a seal, and it is also a very powerful one among the sealing techniques of the Uzumaki family. Unfortunately, Ying has the key. Untie. Ying formed a seal with both hands, and those words disappeared instantly. He opened the entrance of the sewer, walked through a dark and dead corridor, and came straight to a stronghold. The two root ninjas guarding the gate immediately raised their vigilance when they saw an unidentified person wearing a black mask approaching. Who is it? Ying didn't reply, just shook his hands, and two wooden thorns emerged out of thin air, piercing into the chests of the two men like arrows from the string. Wood style. Cutting technique. As the voice fell, the wooden thorns exploded in the bodies of the two ninjas, and the scene looked extremely cruel. At this time, Danzo was in the deepest room, gritted his teeth and said bitterly to himself. Hiruzen, you old fool, you're using the name of Hokage to bully me again. Danzo couldn't survive a day like this. At this moment, a root ninja barged in without even knocking on the door. Danzo's complexion sank, and he scolded. What's the proper way to panic like this? Yes, I'm sorry, my lord elder. What happened? Danzo's pupils shrank in shock at what the root ninja said. An enemy has broken in. Chapter 31. How can it be? Danzo muttered to himself with an unbelievable look on his face. To say that in Konoha village, the most tightly guarded place is not the Hokage office, nor the Anbu building. It is the underground stronghold of the Root Organization. After all, many of Konoha village's most confidential and least known things are kept here. Orochimaru's experimental records, first-generation cell samples, were originally stored here. Call the people immediately and send a signal to the village for help. At this time, Danzo no longer cared about face. If the stored confidential information is stolen, not only Sarutobi Hiruzen, but even the head of the Root Organization, he is also to blame. The subordinate understands. The Root Ninja, obviously aware of the seriousness of the matter, did not dare to neglect in the slightest, and quickly left the room. At this time, Ying was surrounded by dozens of enemies. Just grab it. Hearing the threats from those Root Ninjas, Ying shook his head in disdain and chuckled lightly. Why do some people always say such stupid things at this time? Seeing that he had no intention of surrendering, the leading Root Ninja no longer hesitated, quickly made a few seals, and said coldly. In that case, die, wind style. Vacuum datama. A violent wind blows from his mouth, sweeping towards Ying's body with a sharp momentum. That's it. Ying didn't feel nervous at all, just waved his hand casually, and a huge earthen wall rose from the ground, blocking wind style. The group of Root Ninjas were stunned when they saw this scene. If I read it correctly, this mysterious man wearing a mask didn't seem to have a seal just now. Even Sarutobi Hiruzen, who is known as the strongest Hokage in history, can't do this kind of ninjutsu without printing. Who is this guy? It's almost time. Facing dozens of Root Ninjas who were facing a formidable enemy, Ying muttered to himself. The current Konoha village is not strong, but it is one of the 5 great ninja villages after all. With such a big incident, presumably the security forces will arrive soon. Thinking of this, Ying put his hands together. Seeing his movements, the leading Root Ninja couldn't help but change his expression. Just now, the other party can display such a powerful earth style without seals. Now that the seal is formed, what kind of powerful technique will be released? Ying mobilized the chakra in his body, and paused word by word. Wood style. Birth of the tree world. Boom. As his voice fell, the ground began to tremble. In just a few breaths of time, a huge and lush forest appeared in this underground stronghold. The group of root ninjas wanted to fight back, but were bound by trees. The chakra in their bodies is so restricted that they cannot flow, let alone perform ninjutsu, and they cannot even break free from the restraints. The reason why Sarutobi Hiruzen wants to reproduce a ninja with wood style through first-generation cells is that besides the power of wood style, there is another important reason. Wood style, which has an effect similar to the sealing technique, can restrict the flow of chakra in the enemy's body, and it is most suitable for controlling the runaway Jinchuriki. After controlling this group of root ninjas, Yixing walked straight forward. Through his own powerful spiritual power, he could perceive that the room in front of him had the most sealing techniques and was most closely guarded. Untie. Such a sealing technique is useless in front of Yixing. He entered the room and quickly found what he wanted. Just when Yixing put the document into his arms, he heard a sinister whisper from the door. "You guy, are you looking for death?" Yixing turned around and saw that Danzo had already untied the bandage on his face, and the scarlet Mangekyo pattern in his right eye was slowly turning. "Is this Shisui's Mangekyo? Interesting." Before Danzo could reply, Yixing's figure disappeared instantly. In the next second, there was a sharp pain in his right eye socket. Ah! Danzo covered his right eye, blood dripping on the ground. In the next second, Shisui's Mangekyo in Yixing's hand disappeared inexplicably and returned to Danzo's eye socket. Izanagi. As a time traveler, Yixing certainly knows what Danzo's biggest hole card is. Although those netizens joke that Danzo used Sharingan as a resurrection coin, the effect of Izanagi is actually very powerful. In the time limit of 1 minute, reverse all the unfavorable reality. This means that if Yixing wants to kill Danzo here, even if he uses all means, it will take at least 10 minutes. It seems that there is only one life left for you today. Danzo snorted coldly, gritted his teeth and said, "You have to leave your life here today." "Yeah." Yixing glanced at Danzo indifferently, raised his right hand flat, and a spiral black chakra emerged from his palm. "Accept it, this is a parting gift." The big spiral wheel. Master Hokage, the root organization sent a signal for help. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was sitting in the office, heard the amazing news, and the pipe in his hand fell to the ground with a crisp sound. "Ask for help. Who is the enemy? How many?" Facing a series of inquiries from Sarutobi Hiruzen, Moonlight Hayate bowed his head and cupped his hands. "According to the elders, there is only one enemy who will use wood style." "Wood style." Sarutobi Hiruzen stood up abruptly, with a look of disbelief on his face. Just as he was about to say something, the lights in the office suddenly flickered twice. What followed was a strong tremor like the earth shaking and mountains shaking. Earthquake. Sarutobi Hiruzen supported the corner of the table, and he was relieved only after the tremor ended. At this time, he inadvertently glanced at the scenery outside the window, his pupils shrank slightly, and muttered to himself. How can this be? The moonlight blast followed the direction of Hiruzen's gaze, and saw a huge pothole that sank hundreds of miles away. Is this a natural disaster? Moonlight Hayate regained his composure, and said anxiously to Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was still in a daze. "Master Hokage, don't worry about this, go support the root organization first." "No." Sarutobi Hiruzen shook his head, pointing to the deep hole, with a complicated expression. "The root tissue has become like that." Such a loud noise directly awakened the entire Konoha village. Akamaiki Choza, who was wearing a combat uniform, led the guards and rushed to the scene. When he saw the bottomless pothole, he was stunned. "Master Dingzuo, what happened? Such destructive power, could it be? Jinchuriki is out of control." The members of the guard force really couldn't think of anything other than that monster that could cause such damage. After a while, the two elite Jonin, Kakashi and Might Guy, also rushed over. The two were shocked when they saw the scene in front of them. "Master Dingzuo, what is the situation?" Facing Kakashi's question, Akamaiki Choza shook his head with a heavy expression. "I don't know either. It seems that we are late after all. Konoha village tonight is destined to be a sleepless night." Meanwhile, Yixing has returned home. He took out the scroll from his arms, spread it out on the table, and read the contents on it, showing a satisfied smile. The relationship between Danzo and Third Hokage can be described with an inappropriate word, that is, love and kill each other. Third generation has always felt that he can control this former classmate and turn him into a sharp knife in the dark. And Danzo, why is he defenseless against Sarutobi Hiruzen? This scroll records all the nasty things the two have done together over the years, and all the details are in it. Yi Xing didn't understand at first why Tsunade allowed the root organization to continue to exist after taking office. It now appears that Danzo is using this trump card. Once the records in this document are leaked, not to mention the reputation of third Hokage will be ruined, the entire Konoha village may fall apart. And now, this trump card is in his hands. Next morning. Yi Xing had just finished washing and getting dressed when he heard a rapid knock on the door. He walked over to open the door and found that standing outside was not Danzo or Hiruzen as he had expected, but Kurenai Yuhi and Yakumo, the master and apprentice. You have opened the door. Like a thief, Yuhi-hong quickly brought Yakumo into the door, for fear of being seen by others. Why are you here today? Yi Xing closed the door and asked indifferently. Kurenai Yuhi sighed helplessly, pointing at Yakumo. It's not this little guy. If she insists on coming to see you, I really can't resist her, so I have to do it. Speaking of this, Yakumo explained nervously. Master Yi Xing, I'm bothering you. Hearing what she called him, Yi Xing felt a little helpless. Didn't you say it many times? Just call me by my name. Yakumo puffed up his cheeks and shook his head very seriously. How can I do that? You are my savior, how can I call you by your name? In the process of experimenting with first-generation cells, Yi Xing did solve Yakumo's physical problems by the way. This girl's powerful blood inheritance boundary might come in handy in the future. It's just that he is really not used to being called an adult. Just then, the knock on the door rang again. Yi Xing frowned slightly, thinking that normally no one would come to his house for 10 days and half a month. What happened today? He walked over to open the door, and saw Ino, who was wearing a white dress and looked cute, was standing outside with a generous smile on his face. Yi Xing, do you want to have breakfast together? Just halfway through speaking, Ino noticed Yakumo standing in the living room, looking at this girl who was about her own age. She couldn't help but frown slightly. Who are you? Not to be outdone, Yakumo narrowed his eyes and shot back. Hehe, I just want to ask who you are. The eyes of the two sides collided in the air, as if bursts of sparks were stirred up. Yi Xing frowned slightly, and took 2 steps back. He is not good at dealing with Shira Field. What he didn't expect was that at this very tense moment, another lively girl's voice came. Yi Xing, we are going to practice together today. Hey, why are there so many people? Carrying a bag of pastries every day, I stood at the door in a daze. Ino, she knows it. But the girl with dark purple hair and the mature woman with long black curly hair exuding a charming temperament are not very familiar. I look at Yuhi-hong every day, and wonder if Yi Xing is a young lady who likes this model. Okay, you guys are arguing slowly, I have something to do today, so I won't accompany you. After Yi Xing left such a sentence, he left the house directly. The girls looked at each other with embarrassing expressions. Tian Tian helplessly shook his head, spreading his hands together. It's all right now, no one will look for him. She put the bag of pastries on the table, and smiled at Kurenai Yuhi and Yakumo. Come, let's eat together. Immediately afterwards, Tian Tian looked at Ino, first curled his lips, and then raised his chin. Come over and eat together, it won't taste good after a long time. Although Ino has the temperament of a young lady, she is not the kind of person who would show her kindness to others and give them cold eyes, so she walked over and ate with them. On the other side, after Yi Xing left the house, he went straight to the gate of the Hyuga tribe. Seeing his pair of black pupils, the guard at the door couldn't help frowning slightly, with a displeased expression on his face. Where is the child? Go, don't stay here with us. In normal times, although the members of the Hyuga clan were somewhat arrogant, they would not be so rude. The reason for the guard's attitude is that Yi Xing's black hair and black eyes reminded them of Uchiha who used to suppress Hyuga. Seeing that Yi Xing was still standing there, the two guards looked at each other, and one of them stepped forward impatiently, ready to reach out and push him, while still yelling. Hey, are you deaf? Just when his hand was about to touch Yi Xing's shoulder, a soft and timid voice sounded. Senior Yi Xing, why are you here? Today is Saturday, and the ninja school does not have classes. Hinata, who was wearing the traditional judo uniform of the Hyuga clan, saw Yi Xing standing at the gate and shouted timidly. The guard stopped immediately and asked cautiously. Miss, do you know this guy? The hierarchy within the Hyuga clan is very strict. The members of the branch house are like the slaves of the clan, and must not be offended in any way. Hinata nodded and said to the two guards. This is Chao Wu Yixing. The expressions of the two guards changed and they were surprised. He is the genius who was specially recruited into Anbu. It's no wonder that although Yi Xing's reputation is great, the people of the Hyuga clan don't have much contact with the outside world, so they haven't seen him in person. I'm very sorry, Asagiri-sama. Without the slightest hesitation, the two branch house members walked up to Yixing and bowed deeply. Hyuga is different from other wealthy families, and has a special situation in the village. On the one hand, in order to keep the blood of Bian pure, they do not intermarry with outsiders, just like Uchiha in the past. On the other hand, Hyuga doesn't want to suffer the suspicion of the village's higher-ups like Uchiha did. Therefore, the behavior style of this family is very cautious, and they are always on guard, not to leave anything for others. No problem. Yixing waved his hand casually, looked at Hinata and smiled. Just right, I have something to visit your father, do you want to go together? Hinata froze for a moment, then nodded obediently like a little lamb. Okay. The two walked side by side towards the hinterland of the Hyuga clan. On the way, Hinata seemed a little nervous, her fair and tender cheeks flushed, she nervously grabbed the corner of her clothes, and asked in a voice as thin as a mosquito. Senior Yixing, are you looking for my father to discuss something important? It's important to say what you have to say. While talking, the two came to a tall mansion. After entering the door, Hinata led Yixing to a martial arts arena. Her whole body became obviously tense, and she kept taking deep breaths. HMPH, are you here so late? A middle-aged man in judo uniform scolded in a cold voice. Hinata trembled in shock, and said cautiously, Yes, I'm sorry, father. Seeing her daughter's cowardly appearance, Hyuga Hiashi felt even more displeased. Just as she was about to continue to reprimand, she saw Yixing who was following Hinata, and her face changed instantly. Yixing, you actually came today. Hyuga Hiashi's tone seemed a little flattering. No way, even though he is at the level of Jonin and the contemporary head of the Hyuga clan, he doesn't have any position in the village. Yi Xing's status in the scientific research department is equivalent to Orochimaru in the past, at the supervisor level, on the same level as Yamanaka Heiichi and Akamaiki Dino. The Hiashi patriarch, Yixing responded in a nonchalant manner, and then said softly, I'm here this time to talk to you about something important. What is it? Yixing looked at Hiashi's face, smiled and said word by word. I can help you improve the ancestral gentle fist method. Improve our Hyuga's gentle fist. Hearing this, Hyuga Hiashi showed obvious displeasure. You worry too much, we don't have such a need. If it weren't for the consideration that Yixing is a genius appreciated by third Hokage and the future of the scientific research department, Hiashi would have asked someone to kick him out a long time ago. The history of the Hyuga family can be traced back to the Sengoku period. Like Uchiha and Senju, it is a wealthy family that has been passed down for hundreds or even thousands of years. When first Hokage established Konoha village, they were also one of the first veterans to join. This gentle fist method, which has been passed down for hundreds of years without any changes, is the foundation of the Hyuga family. Yixing actually said that it can help improve it. What a lunatic. At this time, a young man with long black hair and an indifferent expression walked into the training ground slowly. When he saw Yixing sitting next to Hiashi, he frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, Why are you here? Before Yixing could reply, Hiashi slapped the floor and reprimanded him. Neji, how can you talk to Master Yixing like this? Hearing his reprimand, Neji's eyes showed obvious unwillingness, but he still walked up to Yixing and gave a salute, gritted his teeth and said, Master Yixing, the last time the two met was at the graduation ceremony. At that time, we were still classmates. Now, the identity gap between Neji and Yixing is like an insurmountable gap. You're welcome. Yixing waved his hand and smiled nonchalantly. Hiashi snorted coldly and spoke slowly. Master Yixing, the little girl and Neji are about to start a match. If you don't have anything urgent, you can watch it together here. If it were Ino Shikacho, the rich families in Inuzuka would definitely not allow outsiders to watch when they taught their children the family secrets. The Hyuga clan is completely different. If you want to learn Gentle Fist, the most basic requirement is to have white eyes. You can observe the chakra meridians in the enemy's body, and then you can use acupuncture techniques. For those who don't have supercilious eyes, even if they learn moves, it's nothing but superficiality. Therefore, the most important confidential work of the Hyuga clan is actually for the members of the branch house in the clan. Hearing Hiashi's order, Neji walked slowly into the arena, stood opposite Hinata, and put on a posture without saying a word. Because Yi Xing, an outsider, was watching, Hinata's small face showed nervousness, and even his movements were a little stiff. Let's start. Boom. Less than 2 seconds passed between Hiashi's order and Neji's palm hitting Hinata's shoulder. Hinata sat on the ground covering her shoulders, clenched her silver teeth, and endured the pain. Neji looked at her condescendingly, didn't say anything, but seemed to have said everything. Seeing that Hinata didn't even have the strength to fight back and was defeated with one blow, Hiashi shook his head in great disappointment, and whispered to Yi Xing. Sorry, I made you laugh. Hiashi thought that if he knew that there would be outsiders watching today, he should let his youngest daughter Hanabi come to practice against Neji. In his heart, Hinata is a defective product, and he did not inherit the talents of the Hyuga family at all. The heirs of the Hyuga family's clan in the past have all stayed in the clan and were taught by the current patriarch himself. Hinata was sent to the ninja school. Maybe there is a reason for wanting to have a good relationship with third Hokage, but more importantly, Hinata, the name of the heir to the clan, has already existed in name only. Hiashi looked at his daughter and said coldly, "Stand up quickly." Hinata replied submissively, "Yes, father." She struggled to get up from the ground, but the internal injury in her shoulder was affected, and she couldn't help crying out in pain. Seeing this, Hiashi knew that Hinata had no way to continue sparring, so he could only sigh helplessly. The corner of Neji's mouth curled into a smug sneer. What he wants is to make the eldest lady of the Zong family lose face in front of outsiders. Could it be that his father sacrificed his life just to protect such a waste? At this time, Yi Xing stood up suddenly, walked over, bent down, stretched out his hand to Hinata, and smiled. "Are you okay? Can you still stand up?" Thank you." Hinata blushed and grabbed Yi Xing's hand, barely standing up. Immediately afterwards, Yi Xing looked at the proud Neji, and smiled lightly. "Since Hinata is injured, how about I come and practice with you?" "You?" Neji shook his head with a grin. "Master Yi Xing, don't blame me for speaking too bluntly, your strength may not be as good as Miss Hinata's." Hiashi also hastened to dissuade him. "Master Yi Xing, you should just watch from the sidelines, I can call others to practice with Neji." Hiashi understands Neji's character best. This kid is arrogant and indifferent, even if it is a duel, he will never hold back. If Yi Xing was injured, how should I explain to the village? "Are you scared?" Yi Xing said with a smile, and before Neji could answer, he made a move that no one expected. I saw that he actually made a gentle fist gesture. "Don't say I'm bullying. Since I'm in the martial arts arena of your Hyuga clan, then I can just use your gentle fist method." "You fool." Neji clenched his fists when he heard this. "Use the gentle fist of the Hyuga family to practice against yourself." This is not only an insult to Neji, but also a provocation to the entire Hyuga clan. As the patriarch of the Hyuga clan, Hiashi also felt angry, and said in a deep voice, "Master Yi Xing, let me tell you first, since you are going to practice sparring, if you get injured during the process, don't." "That's natural." Seeing Yi Xing agree, Hiashi looked at Neji and said, "Neji, do your best, don't let Master Yi Xing think that the gentle fist of our Hyuga clan is just a show." I see. Neji's character is very complicated. On the one hand, he is very dissatisfied with the system of the clan and branch house. On the other hand, he takes the reputation of the Hyuga clan very seriously, and is a person with a sense of family honor. A guy from a commoner background, just lucky enough to be appreciated by third Hokage, dare to challenge the majesty of Konoha's strongest clan. Neji has made up his mind to give Yi Xing a little bit of a hard time. Blind eyes, open. He didn't need to make seals, he just gave a low drink, and the veins in his eyes popped up, and the white eyes opened. Although the ninjas of the Hyuga clan can basically open their eyes, they can use this ability so freely at such a young age. Neji's talent can be seen like Madara. Blind eyes. Yi Xing smiled. How far into the future can you see with your eyes bound by caged bird? Neji shot back coldly. It's enough to see the future where you fell to the ground. At the same time as the voice fell, he had already moved his feet, and his palms were like swimming dragons, striking Yi Xing's body. Gentle fist is a physical technique that is good at defensive counterattacks. Neji took the initiative to attack like this, because he completely ignored Yi Xing's melee combat ability. After all, his impression of Yi Xing was still in the ninja school period, the average student with middle and lower grades. Oh, are you here? Facing Neji's menacing offensive, Yi Xing just smiled nonchalantly. Through the understanding of the heaven-defying level, the memory of being a time traveler, and the observation just now, he has deduced the gentle fist method of the Hyuga family and mastered it perfectly. Neji just made a move, and Yi Xing already knew what move the opponent was going to use. 8 trigrams 2 palms. With a low snort, Neji moved his palms so fast that they even produced afterimages, and pointed towards various acupuncture points on Yi Xing's body. Gentle fist has the effect of sealing the flow of enemy chakra. If you can't mobilize chakra, even a ninja who specializes in taijutsu will lose the ability to fight. Because of this, the Hyuga clan is known as the strongest clan in close combat in the ninja world. As long as you hit one move, you have already lost. Hiashi, who was watching the game from the sidelines, showed a satisfied smile. Hinata, on the other hand, looked worried and wanted to remind her, but because her father was by her side, she couldn't bend her elbows. It's over. Neji saw Yi Xing standing there motionless, as if he had been frightened, with a smug look on his face. At this moment, only a soft sound was heard. Boom. Yi Xing stretched out his right hand and swiped lightly, actually blocking Neji's palms. Neji obviously didn't expect this to happen, and his movements froze for a while, and then, there was an even more violent attack. 4 palms, 8 palms, 16 palms, 8 trigrams, 32 palms. Accompanied by Neji's low drink, there were only bursts of soft sounds. Hiashi on the sidelines saw that from the beginning to the end, Yi Xing actually used only one hand to defuse Neji's offensive. Even, at the end of the 32 palms, Yi Xing used an extremely profound method that even he, the patriarch of the Hyuga clan, could not understand, dialed back Neji's strength, making Neji stagger. Congratulations, you have deduced the gentle fist method of the Hyuga clan, and you have comprehended it, the profound meaning of Tai Chi. Being able to comprehend such a move was something Yi Xing did not expect. He looked at Neji, who had just gained his footing, and smiled. You lose. I didn't. Neji raised his head, and when he was about to refute, his expression froze. Seeing his reaction, Hiashi was very puzzled, so he gathered chakra, opened his eyes, and looked at Yi Xing. Just at this glance, Hiashi, a ninja who has experienced many battles, showed an unbelievable expression on his face. Through the perspective ability of white eyes, Hiashi saw that the chakra in Yi Xing's body flowed very smoothly. It can be said that it is as quiet as Shisui. This means that during the fight with Neji just now, Yi Xing didn't mobilize chakra at all, and completely relied on his own reaction nerves to block 8 trigrams. 32 palms. This is too exaggerated. Yi Xing turned to look at the shocked Hiashi, and smiled lightly. Master Hiashi, how about I give you a gift? Hiashi subconsciously asked. What gift? Yi Xing slowly raised his right hand and said every word. Just let you take a look at my modified gentle fist method. 80 God Sky Strike. As Yi Xing's voice sounded, dozens of fists gathered by chakra suddenly appeared in midair. Facing such an offensive, Hyuga Hiashi suddenly felt an extremely dangerous feeling in his heart, and he yelled in a low voice, ignoring other things. Hinata, get out of the way. Hinata still didn't understand what happened, and stood there in a daze. Yi Xing frowned slightly, and pushed through the air with his left hand, sending out a gentle force, sending Hinata into the distance. Seeing this scene, Hyuga Hiashi was even more surprised. This way of exerting force is similar to the 8 trigrams air palm that has been passed down from generation to generation. But such a light weight, pushing Hinata away without hurting her gentle strength, even with Hiashi's cultivation level on gentle fist, can't do such a thing. In Hyuga Hiashi's heart, an idea suddenly came up. Could it be that Yi Xing said that he helped improve gentle fist, or is it a more polite way of saying it? Based on the opponent's cultivation in the gentle fist method, even if it is to guide myself, I am afraid it is not an exaggeration. A thought flashed through Hyuga Hiashi's mind. The most urgent task now is how to block Yi Xing's oppressive Yashishin air attack. Hiashi didn't neglect at all. He directly rotated his body, releasing chakra from the acupuncture points all over his body, and said in a low voice. 8 trigrams palms. Revolving heaven. Seeing Hiashi cast revolving heaven, Neji's eyes became a little complicated. Such a top-secret move is one of his branch house members, and he will never be qualified to learn it. Fortunately, Neji's talent is amazing, and through his own exploration, he is about to enter the threshold of 8 trigrams palms. Revolving heaven. This move, combined with Shang Bian's 360-degree vision without blind spots, is an absolute defense in the true sense. Even if Yi Xing's moves are astonishingly powerful, it's impossible to defeat 8 trigrams palms. Revolving heaven, right. Just when Neji thought so, dozens of chakras fists in the air smashed heavily on the defense of revolving heaven with unparalleled force. Boom. After the muffled sound as if the earth was shaking and the mountains were shaking, Neji saw through the turbulent smoke and dust through the ability of rolling his eyes, and saw an astonishing scene. Hyuga Hiashi did block Yashigami's air attack. But his appearance is really a bit embarrassing. The pure white judo uniform on his body has become tattered. From the chest down, the whole person was hit by Yashigami's air force, and it was smashed into the wooden floor abruptly. However, what Yi Xing said next stunned Neji. Phew, it's a good thing I kept my hands. Patriarch Hiashi is a little too weak. Seeing Yi Xing's rejoicing look, Neji's brain has already shut down. The meaning of these words is that the attack just now was the result of the opponent's holding back. If you do your best. Neji couldn't imagine it anymore. Yi Xing walked into the floor and looked at Hyuga Hiashi, who was like a groundhog, and suddenly felt like the whack-a-mole game he played in his previous life. He squatted down and smiled. Master Hiashi, are you alright? Cough cough cough, it's not bad. Hyuga Hiashi forced an awkward smile as he said so. That, Master Yi Xing, why don't you give me a hand and pull me out? Walk slowly. Yi Xing grabbed Hyuga Hiashi's collar with one hand, and pulled him out of the ground with skillful movements, just like pulling a carrot. After Hiashi got out of trouble, he didn't care about tidying up his clothes, and said respectfully. Master Yi Xing, please help us improve the gentle fist method of the Hyuga clan. Hyuga Hiashi could tell that the Yashigami air strike just now was to release the chakra in the body to form a fist attack. This kind of move obviously has the style of gentle fist method, which is very suitable for the ninja of the Hyuga clan. Well, it's not easy. Yi Xing patted Hiashi's shoulder and said calmly. You also know that as a member of the scientific research department, I am usually very busy. Hyuga Hiashi rubbed his hands together in embarrassment and lowered his voice. Whatever condition you have, just open it. If it can be done, I will definitely do it. He had witnessed and felt the power of Yashigami's air strike with his own eyes. Such an ultimate move, no matter what price you pay, you must get it. How about this? Yi Xing said lightly. I can teach the gentle fist technique when I am free from work, but the location is not here, but in my laboratory. Hyuga Hiashi nodded overjoyed. It's easy to talk about. Then, he asked cautiously. Then look, can you teach me first? Yi Xing glanced at Hyuga Hiashi, and directly played 3 consecutive moves. Your talent is too poor, you can't learn it, don't even think about it. This is not something Yi Xing made up at will, but a fact. Hyuga Hiashi's talent really doesn't meet the requirements for learning Yashigami empty strike. He is a middle-aged man who has practiced for so many years, and his strength is only at the elite Jonin threshold level. That's all because of the blessing of supercilious eyes. Hearing that he couldn't study, Hyuga Hiashi sighed in disappointment. Then who do you think can meet the requirements? Your 2 daughters, Hinata and Hanabi, are talented. Hyuga Hiashi frowned slightly, wondering. Hanabi is good, but Hinata. Before he could finish speaking, Yi Xing interrupted directly. Whether to teach, who to teach, do you need to make the decision for me? Hiashi's heart trembled when he heard this, and he nodded with a smile on his face. Yes, I was talking too much. As the saying goes, people have to bow their heads under the eaves. Don't look at Hyuga Hiashi's majestic appearance, in fact, the main thing is that he is able to bend and stretch. Since Yixing named Hinata's name, he agreed. Anyway, Hanabi is the one with real talent. At this time, Hinata looked at the two people who were talking in the field, and his eyes were about to shine. In her heart, the extremely powerful father was so high and mighty, but he was beaten by senior Yixing to the point where he was powerless to fight back. Can even a cowardly self have such power? After talking with Hiashi for a while, Yixing walked up to Neji and said calmly, "Your eyes can't see the future far enough." Neji showed unwillingness when he heard the words, but he couldn't refute. Not only in status, but even in strength, he is far behind the opponent. If you want to see a farther future, come to me. Yixing said something softly, and then walked outside the house. Just as he was about to step out the door, he stopped and smiled at Hyuga Hiashi. "Hiashi Patriarch, do you have anything else to say? If others know about today's events, there will be no way to teach them. Do you understand?" Hyuga Hiashi hesitated, but finally nodded. "I see." Logically speaking, Yixing possessed such great strength that he should report to the village senior management as soon as possible. It's just that the allure of Yashigami Sky Strike is too great. Compared with this kind of secret technique that can change the strength of a family, the blame after being discovered by third Hokage is nothing. On the other side, in front of Yixing's residence, Azuki Shion, who was wearing an Anbu uniform, was standing at the door taking a deep breath, calming down the tension in her heart, and muttering to herself to convince herself. "I just saw that he didn't go to the laboratory today, so I came to see it because of Master Hokage's mission, not because I was worried about him. Yes, it must be like this." Although Sarutobi Hiruzen's request is to keep her close to Yixing and follow Yixing 24 hours a day. But after all, men and women are different, and Yixing insisted, so Shiyan did not strictly enforce it. Now, she regretted it a little. Yixing, who goes to the lab every morning, is almost noon today and hasn't shown up yet. Coupled with the turmoil that happened in the village last night, Shion was very worried, so she decided to take a look. Summoning her courage, she raised her hand and knocked on the door in front of her. When the door opened, Shion finally breathed a sigh of relief and blurted out, "Where did you go? What happened today? Who are you?" It was not Yixing who opened the door, but a cute girl with double ball hair. Tiantian sighed helplessly and murmured, "Okay, here comes another one." She turned her body slightly and smiled at Shion. "Please come in." Maoyu Shion was a little at a loss, thinking in her heart as she walked inside. Could it be that this is Yixing's girlfriend? Never heard him mention it. As soon as she entered, Shion found that there was not only Tiantian alone, but also two girls, and her friend of the same period, Shihihong. "Hong, why are you here?" Seeing Shi Yan coming in, Shihihong suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of shame, and muttered, "That, I will accompany my students to meet Yixing. What about others?" Went out. Shion still wanted to say something, but Tiantian pulled her to sit down and smiled sweetly. "My sister, have a cup of tea and some snacks." Shi Yan couldn't refuse Tiantian's enthusiasm, so she reluctantly complied. The girls ate snacks and drank tea at Yixing's house, as if they were having a tea party. The only thing is that there is one less party involved. Hokage building, inside the office. Danzo was still dressed the same, but his expression was more somber than ever. Sarutobi Hiruzen smoked his pipe, looked at the report on the table, and sighed helplessly. "The root organization, it's over." Danzo didn't refute it because it was the truth. The attack last night not only destroyed the underground stronghold, but also destroyed all kinds of things kept inside. The members of the root organization also suffered extremely heavy casualties, not even 1 out of 10. Thinking of this, Danzo felt his heart was bleeding. Even on the night of the Nine Tails Rebellion, in order to preserve his strength, he didn't let the root organization come forward to help. The strength that has been painstakingly accumulated for many years is destroyed in one day. This incident must have something to do with that Chao Yixing. Hearing Danzo's words, Sarutobi Hiruzen frowned slightly, and said in a deep voice, "Be careful what you say. What evidence do you have?" Danzo gritted his teeth. "The enemy will use wood style, unless first Hokage is resurrected, otherwise this matter is absolutely inseparable from Yixing who is researching first-generation cells." Sarutobi Hiruzen looked thoughtful, thinking that although Danzo had personal emotions, what he said made sense. If this matter is really related to Yixing, it is a serious crime of betraying the village. I see. Sarutobi Hiruzen let out a long sigh of relief, and said slowly. I will send my direct subordinate Anbu to investigate whether this matter is related to Yixing. After getting a satisfactory answer, Danzo left Sarutobi Hiruzen's office. Standing on the street, he was suddenly at a loss. Without the underground stronghold of the root organization, where should I go? Grown-ups. Hearing this voice, Danzo turned his head and looked at the pale and handsome boy, feeling very relieved in his heart. Although the members of the root organization suffered heavy casualties, fortunately, the person he valued the most survived. This young man named Sai is good at a secret technique called Super Beast False Painting. He has good strength in all aspects and is worth cultivating. Sai, send an order. If Hokage's investigation does not yield satisfactory results, the plan will be launched. Yes, my lord. Sai showed a trademark smirk, then turned and left. Danzo looked at the streets with people coming and going, with a sinister look in his eyes. He originally planned to wait until the next Chunin exam to use Orochimaru's Konoha Honkai plan to get rid of Sarutobi Hiruzen's opponent. Now it seems that it is too late. Once the information that the mysterious person took away is made public, Danzo will never have a chance to make a comeback, and will be nailed to Konoha's pillar of shame for the rest of his life. The only way now is to launch a coup, forcefully seize Hokage's position, and then find a way to manipulate public opinion in the village. Sarutobi Hiruzen knew in his heart that Danzo had murderous intentions towards him. After all, not long after 4th Hokage died, there was an assassination incident. He thinks he can hold Danzo. There is just one thing that is not what Sarutobi Hiruzen expected. Danzo felt the ready-to-move Mangekyo under the bandage over his right eye, and a sneer twitched from the corner of his mouth. Just use distinguished heavenly gods, and the will of the world will change to his will. This is how to claim the position of Hokage. Half a month later, in the laboratory of Anbu building. Mao Yuxian looked at Yixing, who was imparting knowledge, and the two girls, one big and one small, who sat in front of him and listened carefully and couldn't help curling her lips. This is a laboratory, not a classroom of a ninja school. How can anyone come here to teach people? However, Azuki Shion remembered that some time ago, Yixing also pointed out a few words to make her Konoha Ryu's swordsmanship go a step further, and she couldn't help but blush. I am not also learning from the other party. Okay, let's stop here today. Yixing smiled and said something. Hinata still looked shy, but after getting along with him for so long, she was not so nervous when speaking, and said softly. I still have to trouble you today. Her younger sister, Hanabi, was not so restrained, and threw herself directly into Yixing's arms, smiling very lively. Big brother, thank you. Yixing rubbed Hanabi's little head. Well, you're welcome. After the pair of Hyuga sisters left, he looked at the information on the table and couldn't help but fell into deep thought. Both Hinata and Hanabi have extremely high purity, close to perfect white eyes. Perhaps because of his personality, Hanabi's cultivation talent is indeed much better than Hinata's, even compared to Neji's, it's not far behind. Yixing found it very strange. Why did Hyuga Neji, who was the most talented among the 12 young masters, become obsolete in the 4th Ninja World War? The same situation also happened to Hanabi. With the talents of these two, the upper limit is definitely not only Jonin level, but at least Cage level. Perhaps, this is not their own upper limit. Rather it is the Hyuga clan, the upper limit of the Gentle Fist Law. As a time traveler, Yixing knows that there is Tensegan above the white eyes. But such an evolutionary route is obviously not as reasonable as Uchiha's Guyu, Mangekyo, and Eternal Mangekyo. Are there other forms in the middle? Just as Yixing was thinking, a ninja in Anbu uniform pushed open the door and walked in. Master Yixing, there are two people who want to see you. Before Yixing could reply, Xian jumped up excitedly, and asked while holding the sword hilt behind her. Who is it? She thought to herself that she had come to live. Since being arranged by 3rd generation as Yixing's personal bodyguard, Azuki Shion has never met an assassin, and she just nests in the laboratory every day, almost bored to death. One of them is called Uchiha Sasuke, and the other is called Hyuga Neji. Oh. Hearing these two names, Xian frowned belatedly, thinking to herself, what are these two well-known geniuses in the village doing here? Yi Xing was not surprised and said calmly, let them in. Okay, I get it. Anbu ninja turned and left, and after a while, he came back with the two teenagers. I saw Sasuke and Neji separated by a distance of nearly 2 meters. Although neither of them spoke, one could feel that the atmosphere between them was very tense, as if they were about to fight in the next second. This is true, both Neji and Sasuke regard the family name as very important. Known as the two geniuses of the new generation, the two have long wanted to compete. You came to see me, what's the matter? Sasuke and Neji looked at each other, and finally the latter stood up. Neji looked directly at the smiling Yi Xing, and paused every word. I want to see a different future. Seeing this, Sasuke followed closely and said in the same solemn tone. I want the strength needed to take revenge on that person, and for this, I can pay any price. Yi Xing smiled, looked at Sasuke and said softly. Then if I want your eyes, can you give them to me? Hearing this, Azuki's eyes' complexion changed. She knew how important Sasuke, as the last Uchiha in Konoha village, held in the heart of third Hokage. Sasuke, with the Sharingan, is the last insurance against the Jinchuriki getting out of hand. Yi Xing, no. Before Azuki Xian finished speaking, Sasuke replied coldly. As long as I can kill that person, whether it's eyes or life, I can give it to you. Your consciousness is very high. Yi Xing turned to look at Neji and asked softly. I really want to know, what kind of future do you want to see? Neji still had that expressionless and haughty look, calming Kaido. Everyone's fate is doomed from birth. I'm just curious, do you have the ability to make changes? Yi Xing stood up, walked over and patted Neji on the shoulder, whispering. A bird in a cage will also have a day of escape. Neji's pupils shrunk when he heard that. Before he could speak, he heard Yi Xing follow up. However, when you get out of trouble, you may fall to the ground and fall to your death. It depends on your own choice. Neji is not stupid, so he can understand Yang's words naturally. Can you really do this kind of thing? Neji asked suspiciously. Curse mark. Caged bird has been around for almost as long as the Hyuga clan. For hundreds of years, Neji is not the only branch house member who wants to break free from its shackles. But I've never heard of anyone succeeding. The branch house is bound by the clan, this may be the inherent destiny. Does Wu Yi Xing really have the power to change his own destiny? You don't need to worry about this. As soon as Yi Xing finished speaking, he saw the Anbu member from before, and suddenly ran back, with an anxious look on his face. Master Hokage, please go over there. Immediately afterwards, the Anbu ninja looked left and right, put his hand to his mouth and lowered his voice. I heard that an inquiry will be held against you. Is it finally here? Yi Xing was not surprised at all, but just smiled at Azuki Xian who wanted to follow. Just wait here, it shouldn't take long. Immediately, he followed the Anbu ninja out of the laboratory and all the way to the conference room of the Hokage building. Still a familiar lineup, Konoha F4, plus the head of the Inoshika Cho clan. Sit down. On Sarutobi Hiruzen's old face, there was a look of exhaustion that could not be concealed. The demise of the root organization is not a good thing for him as third Hokage. There are many dirty jobs that can't be found to do. In addition, Sunagaku's Kazekage sent a letter 2 days ago, saying that he wanted to hold a Chunin exam with Konoha village. Sarutobi Hiruzen knew in his heart that the other party nominally said that he wanted to enhance the friendship between the two villages. In fact, the land poor Sand Shinobi has long coveted the fertile land of fire. This time, I'm afraid I want to use the name of the exam to test the power of Konoha village. The smell of war has drifted closer and closer. After Yi Xing sat down, Sarutobi Hiruzen spoke slowly. Recently, I sent Anbu members to investigate, and found that in your experiment, the speed of consuming first-generation cells was too fast, and the experiment was not conducted on humans. Having said that, a gleam flashed in Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes. Besides, that weak and sickly girl from the Kurama family, not long after you took over the first-generation cell experiment, her body seemed to have started to improve, and she often went out shopping with John and Yuhihong. How do you explain it? Yi Xing had anticipated this situation a long time ago, and replied unabashedly. I injected first-generation cells into her body. What? Before Sarutobi Hiruzen could speak, Danzo got impatient and pointed at Yi Xing's nose and scolded. How dare you use first-generation cells in such a place without the permission of the village? You are a traitor to the village. Yi Xing glanced at Danzo and said with a smile. Elder Danzo, among the members of Anbu, isn't there one named Tianzang who inherited the power of wood style from the first generation? I'm curious, how did he do it? This. Danzo hesitated, not knowing how to reply. Tenzo's experiment was not the first one approved by Sarutobi Hiruzen, but he and Orochimaru conducted it in private. Danzo was still accusing Yi Xing of using first-generation cells privately just now, and now he is fighting back with this incident. This boomerang swollen his face. Seeing that the situation was somewhat chaotic, Sarutobi Hiruzen coughed and said in a deep voice. How is Kurama Yakumo's physical condition now? Yi Xing replied calmly. The ability is within the controllable range, and it can be used as the fighting force of the village. Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded in satisfaction upon hearing this answer. Although it is wrong for you to use first-generation cells privately, the fact is that you have made credit for the village. If this is the case, then the merits and demerits will be offset, okay. Seeing that Sarutobi Hiruzen wanted to make a big problem into a small one, Danzo clenched his teeth, thinking that you forced me to do this. The scourge of Yi Xing must be eliminated once and for all by taking advantage of this opportunity. Danzo looked directly at Sarutobi Hiruzen, the Mangekyo pattern hidden under the bandage, and began to turn slowly. Under the influence of distinguished heavenly gods, Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression froze and he changed the topic. But no matter what, this is a serious crime of betraying the village. Seeing the changes in Hiruzen, Yi Xing guessed that Danzo was playing tricks. Shisui's two Mangekyo pupil techniques, both named distinguished heavenly gods. Although it is not clearly stated in the original book, according to Yi Xing's speculation, there should be some differences in the abilities of Shisui's left and right eyes. The left eye handed over to Itachi is the one-time use pupil technique that permanently modifies the will if the resistance fails. The cooling time is also very long, and it takes more than 10 years to perform it once. As for the right eye taken by Danzo, according to the performance of the five shadows talking about Mifune in the original book, it needs to continuously release the pupil power. Once it is released, the opponent can restore the sober pupil technique. Otherwise, it is impossible to explain why Danzo, without using his right eye, directly controls Sarutobi Hiruzen, becoming the de facto ruler of Konoha village. Execution. The two words spit out from Sarutobi Hiruzen made Nara's complexion change, and he hurriedly dissuaded him. Master Hokage, this matter must not be like this, please think again. Don't think about it. Sarutobi Hiruzen slammed the table hard and said sharply. Come here, execute Chaowu Yi Xing on the spot. The moment his words fell, Moonlight Gale quickly entered the conference room, pulled out the long sword behind his back, and placed it on Yi Xing's neck. This is an order from Hokage-sama, sorry. Framed by the coldly shining blade, Yi Xing's expression was very calm, even with a hint of a smile, he looked at Nara Luju. Patriarch Luju, it seems that the time to make a decision has come. Hearing this, Yamanaka Heiichi and Akamaiki Chozo looked at Nara Shikaku with doubts. Neither of them knew about the conversation between Luju and Yi Xing. Nara Deer clenched his teeth for a long time, his face showing a tangled look. Just like shogi, once this step is taken out, there is no possibility of taking it back. If the chess is wrong, it is not the wooden chess pieces that will be killed or injured, but the members of the Ino Shikacho clan. Luju. As soon as Yamanaka cast a glance, Nara Shirju and him have been friends for many years, so he understood it instantly. What the other party meant was that no matter what, Yi Xing must be kept here. Ding Zuo, get ready. Akamaiki Ding's complexion changed, and he nodded slowly. I see. The moment he finished speaking, Nara Shikaku and Yamanaka Hai, who had formed the imprint of their own family secret technique at the same time, shouted in unison. Heart-turning technique. Shadow binding. Moonlight Gale was controlled by Shin's turn, and lost consciousness in an instant. And those Anbu members outside the meeting room are bound by Nara Shikaku's shadow, and they can't do it even with the seal. Danzo obviously didn't expect this scene to happen, he slapped the table and shouted loudly. What are you guys going to do? Are you going to protect this traitorous village guy? Nara Luju said with a calm face. As Konoha's military advisor, I think Hokage-sama made a wrong decision, so please calm down, Hokage-sama. After he finished speaking, Akamaiki Choza called out the door. Guards. Dozens of members of the security forces rushed in and surrounded the entire meeting room. Nara Luju looked directly at Danzo, and paused every word. Master Elder, please go to and calm down. Hee. Danzo sneered twice, shook his head and whispered. Hiruzen, even Ino Shikacho betrayed you. Sure enough, I should have been chosen as Hokage in the second generation. Immediately afterwards, Danzo actually cancelled the control of the distinguished heavenly gods directly. Sarutobi Hiruzen broke free from the illusion, and looked like he was just waking up from a dream. He was stunned for a long time before looking at Danzo, and said angrily. You fool, how dare you do such a thing? Danzo looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen coldly and sneered. A Hokage that can't even command Ino Shikacho has no value for me to use this Mangekyo. At the same time as Danzo's voice fell, a deep purple barrier suddenly rose outside the entire Hokage building. That's the four purple flame formation. Udatane Kaharu and Midokado Homura couldn't help but change their expressions when they saw the purple barrier outside. Danzo, what do you want to do? Do what? Danzo stood up and took off his shirt. Everyone saw that his body was covered with detonating symbols. One tandem paper bombs, you can create a big explosion. When Danzo said this, fanaticism appeared in his eyes. And the hundreds of tandem paper bombs on me will burn the entire Hokage building to the ground. Udatane Kaharu shrunk his pupils and said tremblingly. Are you crazy? You'll die in the explosion too. No, he won't. Yixing looked at Danzo's right arm and said calmly. It seems that you want to use Izanagi to survive the explosion. Danzo was startled when he revealed his whole cards, and then looked at Yixing with regret. You are indeed a talent. It's a pity. If you joined the root organization at the beginning, you will definitely become a useful pawn. After that, Danzo made a seal with his hands and muttered to himself. Right here, end it all. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.